Living Well Media. 80s TV ladies, so sexy and so pretty. 80s TV ladies, stepping out into the city. 80s TV ladies, often treated kind of working hard for the money in a man's world. 80s TV ladies.
Welcome to 80s TV Ladies, where we look back in order to leap forward and where we are currently enjoying a dive into the facts of life. Here are your hosts, Susan+lambert+hatem and Sharon+johnson.
I'm Sharon+johnson.
And I'm Susan.
Welcome to part 2 of our amazing conversation with Margie Peters about her time writing and producing 80s television.
Let's go.
And so a bunch of us went to the Rape Treatment Center's annual event. Planned Parenthood gave us the Image Award, and I get to keep that one. Okay, it is next to my television in the living room. Should I go get it?
Yes, go get it.
I'll be right back. Okay. This is the Maggie Award, and it says, Planned Parenthood Federation of America, NBC TV, A Different World, No Means No, 1989.
What did that mean to you?
Everything. Everything.
Yeah, there are so many things about this episode that are so wonderful. Not just, the friendship between Freddie and Dwayne, but the fact that Freddie, before Dwayne gets there, has already basically saying, stop, no, we're not doing this. She's trying to take action. But also that conversation between Dwayne and Walter. I don't know that I've ever seen that before or since. Where two men are sitting there talking about it, and Walter unequivocally is saying, no means no. You stop. You don't do anything she doesn't want to do. There is no coercion.
Is no getting her over.
Yes. Blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. All these years later.
It's one of those things that was divinely inspired, I have to tell you. And the writing staff that week was spectacular. Because when we needed a little joke or something, whether it was Cheryl Gard or Yvette Denise Lee or Susan Fales or Jeff Dutille or Thad or me, somebody came up with something that made the next moment work. Dan Mumford was a huge baseball fan. And that's why we made him be the baseball star.
Kadeem and his hero are playing like basketball together.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite scenes too in that script is
toxic masculinity.
You can see toxic masculinity coming up against tonic masculinity. Like, well, but is that how you should do that?
Yep.
But he doesn't have the words. He doesn't feel like he knows enough. And then he goes to Sinbad's character. And that really is, it's one of the best. It is. It's men talking about rape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was the whole point, is that if there's going to be a change, it has to be with men. Okay. And so,
Really it shows how that attitude can be passed from generation to generation, as Garth is talking about. Well, this is what my father said, which is probably what his father heard from his father, and so on. I mean,
you have to break it, right? You have to break the pattern.
Exactly.
You have
so many
to break
brilliant
the
things
pattern.
about it. So
thank you. I'm so proud of that. I have to tell you, I am so very, 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 very proud of that. And I am very, very proud of my time on A Different World, because it really brought together who I was going to be next. After A Different World, I did a sabbatical. And then I did 1.5 years of development at Castle Rock. And while I helped other people's scripts, nothing that I wrote went to production. And so they said, okay, we need that office now. You can leave a month early. Go, go, go. And I said to my husband, that's it. I'm done. We're moving back to Massachusetts.
And what made you decide that? Was it just you were done?
It was my home. I needed to go home. We had bought a beach house, not on the beach, but like the third house in from the beach. And we used it as rental property. And what I said to Gil, that's my husband's name, I said to him, Gil, I want to buy this house, which was like about a fifth of what a house in LA would cost at the beach, maybe a seventh of whatever. I said, I want to buy this house. I want to rent it out while we're in LA. And when we have to hit the mattresses, because I can't get hired because I'm too old, because I was watching that happen, seriously, then we will have that house that we can move into and sell the house in California and retire. And that's what I thought that I was going to do, is I was going to retire. I consulted long distance. I even went out to LA back and forth for another season on another show that didn't really. Anyway, I was bored.
I doesn't sound like you.
I was very bored and I didn't know what to do. And I saw an ad in the newspaper for communications teacher at the local high school in our town. And it said, must be Massachusetts certified. And do you know, girls, that when I graduated from college, I renewed my Massachusetts teacher certification every time it came up, just in case.
Just in case. You're on several hit shows, but you renewed your Massachusetts certification.
And I became a 7th and 8th grade communications teacher at the local middle school. And I did that for 2 years. And then my mom got sick and I had to stop doing that. But I ended up teaching film, history of American film, and creative writing at a junior college for a couple of years. And then I got into community activism.
Did your students know that you had written for television?
I did not tell them, but word got out.
Because they would have been primed.
You know, the thing is that when they hired me to do this, one of the principals was like, but she hasn't been in a classroom since 1970. And it's like, no, she's been in a classroom for the past 15 years teaching America. Okay. And they had this thing called remedial reading, and kids who didn't test at a certain level had to take remedial reading, while their classmates who tested above that level took foreign language. You want to talk about setting people up to fail? Okay. Well, remedial reading was not increasing their reading scores. Okay. It just wasn't working. So they decided to make this position communications. And I said, so what would you like me to teach them? And you said, well, that's really up to you. You're a creative person. And I said, well, And they said, look, we'll give you for X amount of weeks, you can have this other teacher from another school guide you, because she's teaching communications in the Boston school. And so she got me the textbook and I showed her my lesson plans. And she said, ooh, I'm going to take that lesson plan. And I said, ooh, I'm taking your lesson plan. And so we worked together and I taught the kids, team building, how to work as a team. When I would say to them, how are you today? I say, okay, so how are you today? I'm fine. And I'm saying, no, your body posture, your facial expression, and your tone of voice are telling me you're not so fine. So what's going on? That kind of a thing. And I had a friend who had a board game company, and he gave me all the pieces of his games that were seconds, and I had them work as a team to create board games. And then the kids, these are the kids that are supposed to be in remedial reading, by the way, okay? The kids who were taking French were like, why can't we do things like that? So the next year, everybody had half a year foreign language, and everybody had half a year communications. So, agent of change a little bit, and then my mom got sick, so that ended that. But I got involved with my community's No Place for Hate committee. It was sponsored by the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. And it was to basically, celebrate difference, but also educate about different cultures and, why certain people are the way they are because it's cultural, kind of a thing. And respect and dignity. I got involved with that. And then I got my master's degree in multicultural education. And the rest is retirement.
Busy retirement.
Yeah.
You retire like my aunt retired.
What if anything did you miss about Hollywood and the television business? And
I missed having that creative teamwork of sitting around a table. I mean, sitting at a table with Bad Mumford and Susan Fales and Yvette Denise Lee, who, she did,
was she the one that did Living Single?
Living Single, thank you. Yes. And she was our term writer on A Different World the first year that I was there. And she absolutely rose. I mean, she is very talented, very, very, very talented.
What's a term writer?
A term writer is the lowest staff member on the writing staff of the sitcom at the time. And they got paid week salary. And they did not get paid for the scripts they wrote unless they had earned their, I can't explain it exactly. It was sort of like an intern, but bigger than that.
Staff writer.
You were the lowest staff writer. Yeah.
Lowest staff writer.
And you had to make your bones. And she did, And working with Susan Fales was just a spectacular life experience. I just adore her. I always will.
Now, she said that Whitley was sort of modeled after her, or they said that.
Well, I think that, Whitley came from wealth. Susan came from wealth. I would like to think that Susan wasn't quite as clueless, but maybe she was. I don't know. I met her the second and third year of A Different World. So maybe the first year she was that clueless. I don't know. I think she's too smart to be that clueless, quite frankly. She's one of the smartest young women I had ever met.
I want to ask a little bit more about the show you don't want to talk about, Karen's Song, because you also had Assad Khalada directed, but so did Bonnie Franklin.
Yes,
so I'm curious about working with Bonnie Franklin both on One Day at a Time, and then clearly
Bonnie Franklin was awesome too. Okay, Bonnie Franklin was just fine, but I have nothing bad to say about Bonnie Franklin ever. She was terrific. Okay, I have left out the names of the people that I don't want to say good things about. Well, Bonnie Franklin was just terrific.
Well, One Day at a Time was one of my favorite shows back in the day. So I'm always happy to hear that about performers and others that I admire. So that's great to hear. Great to hear about her.
She was really, really, really good.
And my mom was a single parent of two daughters. And for a while, she looked a little bit like Bonnie Franklin. Like she had the short, kind of blonde, red hair. And
well, I'm not the end all and be all, and you're the historians and all. But aside from Julia, which was Diane Carroll, who played Whitley's mother,
yes, she did,
and she was Susan Fales' Auntie Diane, right? Were there any single mothers on television?
Yes,
Alice from the movie. And on the show. Linda Lavin just died last week.
Right. I know. Yeah. Very sad.
But did you see she was in No Good Deed? Linda Lavin was the nosy neighbor.
Yeah. Oh, that's on my to-do list. I haven't watched that yet. Oh,
it's really fun.
She also had a small part in the Ted Danson show that was just on Man of...
Yes. Oh, Man on the Inside?
Yes.
Man on the Inside.
Yes.
That was so charming.
Wasn't that?
But you know who else was in it? Sally Struthers.
Yes.
Okay, and Susan Rutan.
Yes.
Who was Arnie's secretary on LA Law.
Right.
She's the one that was stealing all the stuff. Okay.
Don't tell me more. I haven't watched it.
Oh.
All right.
But it was nice to see women of a certain age were working again. Okay?
Yes.
That women that we haven't really seen were back.
I know. Well, yes. And, the 80s ladies is getting kind of, very, very excited for that. Like the Palm Royale is bringing back some of those ladies. And, Carol Burnett out there working it.
Do something else.
Linda Lavin, that was working on in the middle of working on another show that she still had a few more episodes to go, unfortunately, before they finished. So, but so we'll have one more chance. It looks like to see her after that, after her.
Oh, that's good. Oh, well, that is rude.
So we haven't talked about Valerie, which you worked on.
We haven't talked about Valerie. Valerie Harper was one of my idols. Okay. If I couldn't write for Mary Tyler Moore, to write for Valerie Harper was wonderful. Jason Bateman played her oldest son. And I adore Jason Bateman. I will watch that young man, because he's still young to me, read the phone book. Okay. I watched Ozark religiously because he was in it. I just watched that movie about the guys. Carry on.
Oh my God, he was terrible. Yes, wonderful, horrible.
But he still had that,
yes.
He's got some
charm.
He's got a lot of charm.
He wasn't a straightforward villain.
No.
He was a villain with a smile.
The other thing we haven't really talked about is Facts of Life Goes to Paris.
Yes.
And your involvement in the movie, which came at the end of season 3.
Yeah, maybe.
It was
4?
right before season 4.
I think
yes,
4.
I think. Yeah.
I think it was 4. And yes, Stuart Wolpert and Deirdre Fay stayed back in the U.S. and manned the fort. That was their, that was their instructions, were to hold the fort while we, Linda and I, Assad, who directed it, of course, Jerry Mayer and Jack Ellenson went to France. Can you imagine working in Paris for 3 weeks?
Holy crap.
It was heaven on earth. And again, a learning curve, because we'd all done 3 camera or 4 camera live. And this was filming, single camera filming. And it was written by Wolpert and Fay, Ellenson and Mayer, and Margie Peters. And each of us had a chunk that we wrote. And I don't remember exactly whether it was like we did the Natalie Tootie thing and someone else did the Blair thing and someone did the Joe. I don't remember how we broke it up. But not only did we go to Paris, we flew first class to Paris because the Writers Guild said you have to fly first class. So thank you, Writers Guild. And
what was the story behind doing the movie, though?
The story behind doing the movie was that NBC said they wanted to do the movie.
That's how that happens.
NBC said, we want the Facts of Life to go to Paris. Oh, I have the best Facts of Life in Paris stories to tell you. Oh, God. Okay. So we got to just live in Paris. So that was great. But none of the girls had really traveled outside the United States. And there they were going to work. And then what were they doing at night? So Margie said, I will take the girls on the Bateau Mouche, which is the dinner boat that goes up and down the Seine River. Okay? And we'll go, and I'll give them a night in Paris where they can see the part of Paris that we're not filming on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'll just go out to dinner with the girls. Because Charlotte was there with her 2 sisters, I believe. So they were self-contained, and Jack Ellenson and Jerry Mayer took care of them. Okay? They took them out to dinner and stuff like that. Okay. So I took the girls not with Linda, not with Assad, just me. So we go to the Bateau Mouche. People are recognizing them, but they're keeping a distance. And, I was there saying, excuse me, we're having dinner. Thank you. We appreciate you. Keep watching the show. Thank you so much. And Lisa had lost a lot of weight before from our hiatus of the filming of the series till we were going to Paris. And so she was like, I'm ordering fish. I don't think Lisa will mind me telling the story because she and I have talked over the years and she knows how I feel about her. I am just one of her biggest fans of her as a human being and her comedic timing. Okay. So we're on the boat and Lisa says, I'm going to have the fish, please. Well, it turns out the fish were little sardines and they all were like deep fried and they curled on the plate. And she did not know what to make of them because they had heads and fins and tails on them. And she just kept moving it around in her plate. It was hysterical. So we get off the boat and we're walking back to our hotel. And 2 school buses pull up and park on the street where we're walking along the Seine. And it's 2 busloads of high school girls. And there's the Facts of Life girls. Paris, like, forget the Eiffel Tower. Forget soccer core. Okay? Facts of Life over here. And they're screaming out the window of the bus. And I'm saying, girls, just keep walking. Just keep walking. And they jump off the bus and start running at us. And they're picking up their pace and they're picking up their pace. And I said, you go ahead. I stopped the other girls. And I said, I'm sorry, but you can't chase them. Okay. They're not going to stop and do autographs. They appreciate so much that you love their work, but they have to go back to their hotel now because they're shooting. If you go tomorrow to the Champs-Élysées, you might see them walking down in the... I don't know what I said. I don't know what kind of I projected, but they backed off.
You saved the girls.
I saved them.
You saved them.
I just thought I was taking them on a boat ride, and we'd talk and we'd laugh. And I believe when I get a chance to go through my picture albums, I might have a picture of me and them on the Bateau Mouche.
So who do you stay in touch with?
Assad. And Linda and I talk 2 or 3 times a year.
Ooh.
And
Is she still writing?
no, she's retired. Lisa and I communicate because she was in Texas and my sister's in Austin, and she and I communicated a couple of times. And she said, if you come to Austin, I will come and I will see you. And the time I was going, she was in LA for whatever that purpose was. But and I think Nancy has a place near Wimberley, and which is outside of Austin as well. And when my sister and I went to Wimberley for a weekend, I kept looking around to see if I could see Nancy. I could not find her. I could not see her. She's pretty much, withdrawn from the spotlight. Mindy still does a lot of voiceover work.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in the Palm Royale.
Oh, that's right.
They are picking up everybody. they have a lot of 80s ladies. We're trying to get them.
Oh, that's right. Well, can I tell you something else? I wanted to say, I have such affection for those young ladies. I have, because they not only had to be working women carrying 1/4 or 1/5 of a television show every week, but they had to have breakups and acne and weight issues. There was a time where people were calling them the fats of life because the girls were gaining weight, okay? Because of the pressure they were under and puberty and all of that. It was so cruel. It was so cruel. And the powers that be, asked Linda and me to talk to the girls about it. And I said, we're not going to be able to talk to them about it. It is a fact. Now, is there some way that the company can help? And what the powers that be came up with, and that was above our level, it was at the corporate level, was that they had a dietitian come in and have better food around and stuff like that. But when Lisa Welcher lost her weight, it was all Lisa Welcher. Okay. I mean, the powers that be would say things to us like, you can't have a fat Blair. It's okay if Natalie's heavy, Jeez, I mean,
It doesn't surprise me.
yeah, well, hey, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, how many shows had all female cast talking about friendship? We looked at Designing Women as well,
Yeah.
and talked to Linda Bloodworth Thomason and talked about the fat shaming that went on for Delta
just
Berg.
awful,
Delta.
right?
And, and
Delta+berg, the poor woman.
Yeah.
and you're like, I remember that being the People magazine, all that stuff, and being the biggest, most horrible thing a woman could do.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching these episodes and I'm like, she's not that fat. She's a curvy woman.
Yeah.
And she's
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
But
pretty crazy.
when she started out her career, she was slender.
Yes.
Okay. And I think the pressures of her work, there's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is a lot of pressure on I wish actors, maybe there's more about that now that's happening. There's more acceptance, first of all. Of
Mhm.
course, it helps if you're heavy to also be very funny. And then there are people that are into body positivity.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people saying, that's just an excuse for being fat. It's still out there. It is still,
Yes, it is.
Yes.
it's not out there. It's here. It's here, So,
Yeah.
But I have to tell you that the 15 years that I worked in Hollywood were among the most stressful of my life. Okay? Because you realize that you're responsible for $750,000 to $1.25 million worth of money that week. Is the show going to be worth airing? Okay. On a different world, they would call me 11 o'clock Peters, because we'd go to the stage, and I have to tell you, Debbie Allen has amazing instincts. I learned a lot from her, and I want to tell you about that in a minute. But we'd go to the stage and we would see what wasn't working, and then we'd go back, and Debbie would come in the room with us, and we would talk about how to fix it. And then we would stay up all night rewriting. And oftentimes I would just sit there and listen. And I would listen to what was going on in the room and what people were saying and how to fix it. And, when you're doing dialogue, one of you takes one character and the other one of you takes the other character, and you spar and see what comes out. Okay. And I would sit there and I would listen, and I would say, can we stop for a minute? I don't think we're on the right path here. And I'd say, but Jeff said this other thing a little while ago, and I think that we could build on that. And then the stuff that you guys are doing here that's making me laugh while I'm sitting in the room, I think that we can build it into it. And I remember once we had Gladys Knight. We had Gladys Knight on the show.
Yes, I remember that episode. I love that episode.
Okay. And it was like, who's going to be one of Gladys's backup singers? Okay.
Yeah.
So that you can be true to the show, to the characters in the show, and still have Gladys Knight be on your show, right? Script stopped. It just fell apart. I mean, Bud. And so we're sitting there, it's 11 o'clock at night, and Dad Mumford is just going on, and he's saying the funniest stuff. And then Yvette Denise Lee starts sparring with him, and then Susan Fales jumps in, and I said, stop. That's what the character should be doing. That is exactly what you guys are saying, and how you're ragging on each other. That's what our characters have to be doing. And do you know, within an hour, we had fixed the script, and it was one of the best shows that we ever did. And we listened to each other, you know, and I listened to the back and forth that was going on in the room. And that was one of my skills. Okay. One of my skills was, wait a minute, what you just said is a good jumping off thing. Can we put that in the script and see where that will take us? And that was one of my, skills, was to say, that's not working. This is funny, but it's not really going to be funny. And we're better than that. So let's just do better. Let's just do better.
Okay, we'll continue, but first we have to take a break.
I'm just so curious about the young you watching TV and coming up with scenarios, and then later being in the middle of it all. Did you ever have a moment where you were like, I'm here doing this?
Yeah.
I'm living the dream.
Yeah. Well, I sent you the picture of me and my cowgirl. Oh,
yes.
Okay. Our son and daughter-in-law gave us this thing called Storywork, and they gave us prompts every week, and I'd have to write. Okay. So for a year I wrote every week. I was writing again. And I wrote an essay about, what did you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be a cowgirl. I wanted to be Dale Evans. I wanted to be Annie Oakley. And, for Hanukkah one year, my mother actually listened to me and bought me that outfit. And boy, I was the happiest girl in the world. So that's what I mean when I say I was a television baby, is, I didn't know the girls could even do that. I did not even know as a young person that girls could even do that. And what brought it to my attention absolutely was the Mary Tyler Moore Show. That girls could star, that girls could do this. And so, yeah, I don't know where I got the chutzpah to think I could actually do this, but I was really lucky. I had Bernie Orenstein, and then I had Linda Marsh, and it was alchemy. I can't, her talents and my talent, they were different, but I was like the earthy one and she was the esoteric one, except I got to know her better and saw that she was kind of earthy herself, but, she was more sophisticated. I remember we once went to a one day at a time Christmas party or end of season party or whatever. And I said to her, Linda, there's going to be all these actors there and all these writers and producers, and we're just newbies on the block. I said, I don't know what to converse with them about. I can't talk about recipes. I can't talk about my kid. I can't, what else, my garden, my vegetable garden. What do I talk to them about? He said, Margie, ask them about themselves.
Work like a charm.
Every time, Hollywood, come on.
So what are you up to?
What are you up to? Exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yep.
So I want to talk about your husband for a minute, because he also supported this dream. And
Amazing.
Okay, the family joke was this. He would say, because he was working as the UPI sports editor for New England, okay? And
Big
that would
jobs.
mean that on a Sunday, he would go to the Celtics game, the basketball game at Boston Garden in the afternoon, and then go write his story and send it out to all the New England subscribers, okay? And get back in time that they would take up the parquet floor from the basketball game, and the ice was underneath it because the Bruins were playing that night. So I would not see him on a Sunday, okay? Because he would be at the Garden for the whole day and night, all right? And he was working 60 hours a week. And the joke was, if Margie could ever earn as much as I earn, I'll stay home and she can go to work. How was I going to earn $250 a week? How on God's green earth? And then I wrote that thing, and Bernie called, and when he flew me out to LA, he told me that I was going to get 5, in addition to my plane fare and staying with him and Barbara, okay, that I was going to get $500. And then the Writers Guild got involved because while Rhea Cohan, who is the wife of Buzzy Cohan, who does a lot of the awards shows, or did back in the day, she was a friend of the Turtle Tops, so she was a writer. Linda Marsh was brought in because she was a friend of Barbara Rhodes Orenstein. And I was brought in because of my connection to Bernie that way. And we created these women for a show that they were calling The 5 Women. Okay. And it was eventually called 13 Queens Boulevard. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Eileen Brennan was one of the
Yes.
stars. Helen Page Camp. Oh.
Were they journalists? What were
No,
they?
they were all
On Queens
women.
Boulevard.
Helen was a widow and had a daughter named Jill, a younger daughter. So that was like the 20 and below young woman. And then Eileen Brennan was the quintessential like Martha Stewart-y type before Martha Stewart. Yeah. Come here. You want to meet Gil?
Yes, please.
The king.
Scooch down, babe. Scooch down so they can see you. Okay.
Hi.
This is Gil.
Hi
Okay.
there. So
The
nice to
saint.
see you.
He
The
can't
same.
hear us, but we're saying hello.
The same hello, but you can't hear them.
Jerry Van Dyke.
Okay, yes. So Jerry Van Dyke was brought in to play Eileen Brennan's husband because the producers were really worried about there only being women on the show.
Oh, God forbid. Got to bring Jerry Van Dyke in.
Okay.
Because Eileen Brennan is not
we gotta
smart
have a
enough.
little testosterone. Yeah. And so we did, I think they shot 5 episodes and they were put on at 10:30 at night. The Ropers were on from 10 to 10:30.
They
And then
followed
we
the
were
ropers.
on from 10:30 to 11. Okay. So that did not happen. All right. It did not happen. But the thing is that if you're writing a show about women, you damn well better have some women on the staff. So, and Linda wrote a script on her own that they actually ended up using. And I said, oh, she's talented.
Stick with her. Yeah.
And I think she said, oh, she's got chutzpah. Okay, I'm going with her. So
Yeah.
we were good together. We filled in each other's blanks.
Did you see it like, because on Facts of Life, were there a lot of other women in the writer's room?
Well, Joel Kimmel and Ann Gibbs,
Okay.
who had worked for the company in the past, they were on our first season. And then Deirdre Fay and Stuart Walpert are right. They were another, male-female couple who were on the show. Sally Sussman, I don't know if you're familiar with her. I don't even know what actually happened with her, but she was like a secretary on the show, and then she became a term writer. And then I don't know if she created her own show or what. The other people that were brought in were male. Martin Rips and Joseph Storetsky were males. They still are, probably. But, you get a show like A Different World. You have Jaleesa Dawn Lewis. You have Whitley, Jasmine Guy. You have Freddie, Bree Summer. You have
Kim.
Thank you, Kim. And you have 4 women regulars, two guys, and sometimes Sinbad, sometimes whatever. So you need female writers. And you have an executive named Marcy Clarcy. Okay. She made her bones at ABC. She was the head of their comedy department for a while. Yeah. And she and Tom worked together at ABC. So you get a Marcy Clarcy in there.
Yep. A while back when we were talking about A Different World, you said you were going to come back. You wanted to come back and talk some more about Debbie Allen.
Oh God. I loved Debbie Allen before she became Debbie Allen. Okay. And she lived in my neighborhood in Santa Monica. So we did actually have, yeah. My husband was thrilled with her husband, Norm Nixon, because the sports thing, right?
Right.
But anyway, 3 Girls 3. Look it up. 3 Girls 3. Debbie Allen was one of the 3 girls who wanted to have a career, I think on Broadway. And in my late teens, somewhere, I don't know exactly when that show was made, but Debbie was one of the stars of that. Then
1977.
Okay. Then you have Fame.
Forget it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where Debbie honed her persona. Okay. And so by the time A Different World, Debbie Allen was Debbie Allen. And, I have a funny Debbie Allen story. Okay. All right. So I had written a line in my very first script for A Different World where Dwayne was going to go home, but they were going home for Thanksgiving. Okay. I think it was called If You Like Pilgrim Coladas.
Yes, it was. Season 2, episode 6.
I dig it. Anyway, and I had Dwayne say something. And Dwayne on the stage, they felt that my line was limp. Okay. So Kadeem says, I got to get home because I got a date with Big Butt Brenda. And I was so offended. And I went to Marcy Clarcy and I said, Marcy, you can't say that. This is part of the education of Margie Peters. Okay. He says, I have a date with Big Butt Brenda. Well, I know that when I was in high school, before I met Gil, I went out with a guy who dumped me to go out with a fat girl because she was going to put out. And I felt, projecting my life onto it, okay, that Dwayne was going to get some because he was with a fat girl. Debbie Allen sat me down and very kindly and lovingly explained to me that in African American culture, having a big butt was a good thing, not a bad thing. Okay? I didn't know this. What would I know this about that? I wouldn't. Okay? And that when Dwayne says he's got a date with Big Butt Brenda, he's wearing that like a 5-star endorsement of his awesomeness. Okay? That she's awesome, but he's even more awesome because he's got a date with her. And let me tell you, they said it in front of a live audience, and Kadeem gave it his Kadeem thing, and I got a date with Big Butt Brenda, and the audience went wild. And so I learned something there, okay? That you don't judge by your own yardstick, that there's more than one frickin' yardstick, okay? And that there are things in one culture that are appropriate and in another culture are inappropriate. And you learn to value that. And you say, I'm going to stay on this learning curve. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So Debbie, when I told her what my thought was, she says, oh, Margie, you're just such a prude. And I said to her, no, it might just be that I'm white, Deb. I don't know. She laughed and we laughed. And she said, I'm going to call you the flying nun. And I said, oh, don't do that to me. Please don't do that to me. She says, oh, Margie, you just don't understand that certain things in Black culture are different than they are in white culture. And I guess you're going to learn. Well, for the wrap party, I had the costume department find one of those flying nun things that Sally Field wore. It was from that show.
Yes.
And I showed up at dinner that night, put that on. She almost split a gut. I said, the flying nun is here, babe. And she just was hysterical about that. So.
Oh, gosh, that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
We can't laugh at ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
But I do want to say the thing I missed the most, besides the money, is the sitting down with a team and coming up with something way bigger than the sum of the parts. One of the one days at a time that we wrote, by the way, was there was a guy named Bob who was sort of like a brother figure to Julie and Barbara. Mm-hmm. And he was played by Gene Stapleton's son, Bob Putch. The story idea that we came up with was that Barbara didn't want him dating this girl because she was the town pump. Okay? And what she had to come to was, he knows who she is. He's enjoying her company. He's treating her like a gentleman. She's behaving like a lady. Leave them alone. Okay? And so Barbara had to learn not to judge and not to try to break them up and not to try to change his mind. And Barbara had to not be the villain in this romance. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, it was the similar thing of the girls on the Facts of Life advocating for each other. Well, Barbara has to learn if she's not going to advocate for her, the least she can do is get out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that Girl with the Past?
Yes. What are you doing?
I've got a computer.
IMDb, bro.
I got the IMDb, bro.
Genius. Girl with a Past. Yes.
Season 5, episode 20. I am so excited that we got a chance to talk with you.
Oh, me too.
It's, and Melissa will attest, you were on my list from almost the beginning of us starting the show.
Yep. Jeez. Wow.
I did pay attention to credits. I did pay attention to women in the field. And in particular, that was sort of who had these pretty amazing careers, which you had.
I had 15 years of back-to-back work. And
on really big, huge, impressive shows.
Yeah, well, they were in the top 20. So yeah. If I could have thought that was going to be my life, I fantasized about it, but I never really thought it would. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, there we were. I was flying out to LA, and my house was sold, and everything was in the truck, and we were moving out to LA and living in Santa Monica, and holy cow. And at the end of the 15 years, what I said to my husband is, I don't want to be begging for work. I don't want to you have to earn a certain amount of money to live in LA. And I had seen too many writers who had been on other shows who couldn't get arrested, who was struggling, and like people who they had worked with would throw them a bone and give them an assignment so that they could keep their Writers Guild insurance. I did not want that to be my fate. I did not want that to be my fate. So after 15 years, I turned to my husband and I said, honey, we got enough. I know what enough is. We got enough. We can move back into the little house in Massachusetts and live at the beach. And we got enough as long as you get a job. And he had, once our son went off to college, he went back and got his drug and alcohol counseling certificate from UCLA. And then when we moved back to Massachusetts, he worked at a detox and got his master's degree. He set up a dual diagnosis program in a hospital, and then he went and got his degree, master's degree, and then he went into private practice, counseling people with drug and alcohol problems as a therapist, and did that for several years. If I could tell you, the facts of life was spectacular. Okay. It was hard work and it was spectacular. And working with Linda Marsh is one of the best things. I mean, it was the best. And working with Asad Kalata was a pure joy. And the 2 years on A Different World were life-changing for me. They absolutely were life-changing for me. And I mean that in the best possible way. In the best possible way. So I'm a pretty lucky woman.
Now, are you the funniest one in your family? Because you're very funny.
Oh, thanks. But my husband says yes. My son's pretty funny too. Our son, actually, he wrote for America's Wildest Police videos. And then he did a lot of stuff for the Travel Channel. And then he wrote 2 books for mid-grade readers, The Unforgettable Logan Foster and The Shadow of Doubt. And so he goes around to schools showing kids how to create their own superheroes and showing them how they can be superheroes in their own lives.
Oh, wonderful.
But he's a creative director for an advertising agency in Massachusetts.
And Kevin, our sound guy, just messaged me to tell me Boston makes a lot of funny people.
In the cold weather, in the winter, you got to do something. So,
Right.
I was born in Newton.
Oh, where did you go to school?
In Hudson. I grew up in Hudson, Massachusetts.
Oh, in Hudson, Mass. Okay, my family's in Holliston.
Okay.
And Millis.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Okay.
it's been a delight listening to you, and your accent and vernacular are very familiar to me, and I like it. So thank you.
You think I have an accent? It's like, Marge. Don't call me Marge, okay? I do not like... The only person who has ever gotten away with calling me Marge is Marcy Carsey, okay? And she'd go, okay, Marge. Just make Dwayne the hero. That's all you have to do, Marge. Make Dwayne the hero.
We can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk with us today and sharing your stories.
And Melissa and Susan and Kevin, thank you so very much. And if you have any 9 to 14-year-olds in your family, check out Have to His Mother, for God's sake.
Yeah, for sure.
Logan Foster. The unforgettable Logan Foster. He's on the spectrum.
I love
He's a foster child. He's adopted by this couple named Gil and Margie. And it turns out that they're superheroes.
Oh, I love it.
That's fantastic.
I will get it for my nephew, Micah, who's just a little baby now, but he'll grow into it.
All right. Well, you guys, thank you so very much. This has been a delight. Now I know why Assad said, yeah, Margie, you want to do this.
You wanted. I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Yeah, we are too. Very grateful.
All right. Well,
you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday and a beautiful week.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, Kevin. I appreciate it.
It's great to hear you. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care. I'm going to sign off as soon as I find out where it is down there. Leave.
For today's audiography, find out more about Margie Peters at IMDb. The link will be in our description.
You can watch The Facts of Life for free on the Roku channel and Tubi, although they don't have every season. So you might have to go to Amazon and pay for it, like some of us. And be sure to check out the 2 books her son wrote on Logan Foster. The link will be in our description. What do you want to know? Who should we talk to? What should we talk about? Send us your thoughts and questions at 80stvladies.com or email us at 80stvladies@gmail.com.
Meanwhile, please take care of yourselves out there. Take care of your friends and family. Look for joy, spread kindness, stay active, stay curious. As always, we hope 80s TV Ladies brings you joy and laughter and lots of fabulous new and old shows to watch, all of which will bring us closer to being amazing ladies of the 21st century.